Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, before we begin the second chapter, because we are going to begin Bhagavad Gita with the second chapter. First chapter, we will cover it in the introduction. Introduction to Bhagavad Gita is important. We have to put Bhagavad Gita in the right perspective. We have to place it in our life. We have to place Bhagavad Gita in our life. And there is Bhagavan Krishna, there is Arjuna, the context is, even though it is a context of a problem between Pandavas and Kauravas, between one group, one family and another family actually. But both of them belong to the royal family. Pandavas were, but both had a responsibility. Anyone that is a part of a royal family has a duty towards maintaining dharma. That is the main duty of a king. Like when you say government, what is the main duty of the government? Just to govern. Governance. Governance is the main duty of the government. Governance. Governance means maintaining law and order. That's called governance. In the same manner, in those days also, when a king was there or a prince was there, every member of a royal family had a duty to maintain law and order in the modern language, dharma in the ancient language. You can't maintain law and order without maintaining dharma. Both the important point we have to grasp. You cannot maintain law and order without maintaining dharma. Dharma means human values. Without maintaining human values, you can't maintain order. In a family, if everybody has value to speak truth, if everybody values honesty, if everybody values straightforwardness, if everybody values non-violence, if everybody values tolerance, if everybody values accommodation, so the more we value human values, the easier we are governable. More easily we become governable. If we have no respect for human values, then we become wild. Human beings become wild. And how do you really control a wild person? How can you control a wild person? No, Delhi police is not Delhi police. Nobody can control a wild man. You can't control wild human beings. Therefore, law and order and peace in the society, what we call the law and order, is maintainable only when the human beings have respect for human values. Please, values means not divine values, not religious values, Not spiritual values, we are not talking about it. But human values. Human values. Human values, it is the human values which every religion glorifies, understand. Religions don't have anything else to talk about except human values, because that is all that is available. Speak truth is it a religious value, spiritual value, or a human value? This particular topic I want to make it very clear to you today. If when you speak truth, don't call yourself I am a spiritual man. When you speak truth, you become a human being. Understand? When you are honest, you are a human being. When you are non-violent, you are a human being. Human values make a person a human being. Did you hear the whole sentence? Human values make a person a human being. Human beings need not be governed. They govern themselves. Human beings need not be governed. Every human being with respect for values governs himself. If everybody governs himself, that is called an ideal society, a peaceful society. Really, that is a matured society. It's a very great society which is difficult to come across, because always somebody had to govern society. Because human beings, when they have no respect for human values, they become wild. Understand? Wild. So, when you have no respect for your parents, then you shout at them. And how do you look? Wild. Let somebody take a picture of yours when you are screaming at your father. Wild. And therefore, this Pandavas and Kauravas both belonged to a royal family. Both had a duty to maintain law and order. And maintaining law and order, I have already told, only when you educate people, create in them respect for human values. Creating in people the respect for human values is what is called teaching dharma. Creating in people respect for human values. Say respect truthfulness, respect honesty, respect accommodation, respect tolerance, respect non-violence, respect, respecting elders, respect caring others. You see, you care for others. So, teaching respect, putting in others' heart respect for human values is called teaching dharma. Creating in others the respect for human values is called teaching dharma. Therefore, what is the duty of a king? What is the duty of a king? To teach dharma. To teach dharma. To teach dharma. In fact, even sometimes when the kings fail to teach dharma, or despite their teaching the people don't change, when people go out of control, when life becomes free for all, that is the time when Bhagavan himself intervenes, and I have no doubts about it. Bhagavan intervenes means nature creates someone who has to guide the people. Something happens when things go out of control. Something happens. Some individual is thrown up, something happens which brings everything again under control. That's called avatara. So if Bhagavan came, if we look upon Bhagavan as Krishna as the avatara of Bhagavan, then what is his duty? I want you to follow. What should be his duty? To teach dharma. And what should be the duty of Pandavas? To teach dharma. What should be the duty of Duryodhana? To teach dharma. If you are not teaching dharma, then you have no right to belong to a royal family. You have no right to belong to a royal family if you are not teaching dharma. Creating in people respect for human values. Now, those who are supposed to teach dharma, if they break dharma, then what do? Those who are supposed to teach dharma, break dharma, then what do? Only Bhagavan has to intervene. Bhagavan has to do something. So between Pandavas and Kauravas, this problem is there, adding dharma. Duryodhana broke dharma. Just listen, I am all giving you the introduction. Don't say, Swamiji, why don't we do the verse? Verse we will do arams. Let us see whether the context makes sense. Whether it is relevant to me, is relevant to us. Now, Duryodhana broke dharma. That's absolutely clear. There is no debate about it. However much the other person may be wrong, but to put a wedded wife to shame in public, I don't think can be justified any time. That is why, God himself, Krishna himself intervened to give protection to, that's a very, very touching event. When you have nobody else to protect you, definitely only Bhagavan, you can only pray to God. You can cry out for help to God. When you have not even a straw to hold on to. There is not even a straw to hold on to, then what do? You can only cry for help. Draupadi cried for help, for the grace. But what I am telling is, Duryodhana, there is no need for a debate whether Duryodhana broke dharma. If an ordinary man breaks dharma, it is understandable. But the one who is supposed to teach dharma, if he breaks dharma, then it is a serious matter. Understand? Then, it is a serious matter. Even God takes cognizance of it. When an ordinary man breaks law, I don't think God needs to take cognizance of it. But the one who is supposed to teach dharma, and if he breaks dharma, even divinity takes cognizance of it. It's a serious matter. Therefore, Duryodhana needs to be pulled out. Now, Bhagavan Krishna also said, Duryodhana may be wrong, but everybody does make a mistake and everybody deserves to be forgiven. See, this is God's thinking, understand? Don't think, Bhagavan, it's all because of Bhagavan there was war. This is another, these stories. Sometimes, don't you think Swamiji Bhagavan Krishna was very violent? Because Arjuna never wanted to fight. But Krishna said, lado. He said, ladvaya. Sabko marwa diya. Bhagavan Krishna, how can you say Bhagavan Krishna was non-violent? These are the stories people come up with great theories. As if Bhagavan Krishna, in fact, even though he knew that Duryodhana deserved severest punishment, but yet he said he needs to be forgiven. Everybody must be given a chance to change. In fact, everybody deserves to be forgiven once in life. Whether we follow that rule or not, but God definitely follows it. That's what I feel. We always get forgiven. Krishna says he has made a mistake, he has broken the dharma, but yet he needs to be forgiven. Let there be no war. Krishna made so much of effort, let there be no war. And he even went as a mediator, as an ambassador. He told Duryodhana, please, even now it is not too late to avoid war, because war is not good. We too have a problem, and in the process so many innocent people get killed. So many people get killed. Krishna tried his best to ward off war. He told Duryodhana, you keep the whole kingdom. Just see Krishna. You keep the whole kingdom. Give Pandavas 5 villages. Is it not really, does it not reflect Krishna's love for peace? Bhagavan Krishna ladaku hai. He says, hey, let there be no war. Keep the whole kingdom. Just give 5 villages for Pandavas. He says, no, ye nahi ho sakta. All right, give 5 houses, a village with 5 houses. There's no. All right, give 1 house with 5 rooms. DD a flat. You can afford, I think you should be able to give just 1 DD a flat. Then he said, I am not going to give even that much of land which can be occupied by a needle point. I mean, that's something, that's a way of saying. That means what? Get lost. Get lost. Instead of saying get lost, you say, I won't give you even a little, not an inch. Now, Krishna tried his best to persuade. He didn't go to threaten. He didn't go to threaten Duryodhana. He went to persuade Duryodhana. And sometimes what happens, a wrong person always interprets persuasion as the weakness of the one who persuades. Understand this point. Supposing somebody comes and persuades you, aisa mat karo, you think he's being weak. When India persuades Pakistan, please don't do this, then they think, kamzor hai. Persuasion is always interpreted as weakness. And knowing that also full well, in fact, this is what Bhim said. Hey Bhagavan, you are going to persuade him, that will be misinterpreted as our weakness. Krishna said, so what? Even if we are looked upon as weak, and then if we can avoid the war, it is worth it. This only reflects Bhagavan's love for peace. Understand? Even if they look upon us as weaklings, and then if we can avoid war, it is worth it. It is worth taking any steps to avoid war. That is how God thinks. Understand? It is God's thinking. Krishna's thinking is divine thinking. It is better to avoid war. And it is worth taking any step to ward off the war. In fact, there lies the wisdom. But Duryodhana was not ready to ward off the war. He wanted the war. Understand? Duryodhana wanted the war because he was sure to win, because he had Bhishma and Drona with him. When Bhishma and Drona and Karna were there with him, I can win the war. Let there be war. Let there be war. I can not only get the kingdom, that kingdom I already have, but with the war I can get the name. You see? Kingdom I already have, I am not going to give it back. But if there is a war, there is a victory, then I will have glory also. I have both kingdom and glory. If a man can have an ambition for kingdom, do you think that he will have no ambition for glory? If a person has ambition for money, do you think that he will not have ambition for power? I say ambition for the material also implies the ambition for power, glory, name, fame, everything material. Ambition for one material thing implies the ambition for anything material. Ambition for rupees implies also ambition for dollars. You don't have to know. ऐसा भी होता है स्वामी जी. Supposing I have ambition for money, then I should also, is it true that I can also have ambition for dollars? Oh, you sound so naive and innocent. Hey, when you have ambition for something material, then you have ambition for name, fame, glory, everything. Is it not? Therefore, Duryodhana not only wanted the kingdom, but he also wanted the glory, and he wanted the war. He was in a hurry to have the war, understand? The war was not unavoidable if Duryodhana was ready to listen. In fact, war is never unavoidable. War is always avoidable if both the parties are wise, if they are wise enemies. If both the enemies are wise enough, then a war can always be avoided. But one is wise, the other is stupid, then you may avoid war, but the other person will impose it on you. Duryodhana was ready to impose war on Pandavas. That is exactly what happened. Krishna comes back from Duryodhana. And then Bhima, it was Bhima's day. Krishna, did I not tell you not to go? Did I not tell you not to go? Because I told you that he is not going to listen to you. And you still went. You still hoped against hope. That only reflects God's love for divinity. You take even desperate measures to create peace, understand? God always even takes desperate measures to create peace. And Krishna took even desperate measures to avoid war and create peace. And people say, Bhagwan ne ladwaya unko. Dekho ji. And then Krishna comes and tells the Pandavas, Duryodhana is not listening. And the war is about to break out. The question is not whether you want war or not, but Duryodhana wants. So even if you leave the kingdom and go away, he will come after you. He would like to get rid of you. Therefore, the war is inevitable, Krishna said. Whose statement is this? When Krishna says, war is inevitable, whose statement is it? Is it his desire? It is Duryodhana's desire. Because of Duryodhana, well, the war became inevitable. When Krishna said the war is inevitable, then the Pandavas said, we are ready. And then really the rest of the story, you know it. Then Arjuna gets into trouble. Tell me. Arjuna says, I don't want to fight. It is then Krishna said, no, you are supposed to fight. When he says you are supposed to fight, is he teaching violence? He is teaching bravery. He is teaching duty. He is not teaching war. He is teaching duty. There was a time to avoid war. Now the war is inevitable and the battle lines are already drawn. Now, right in the middle of the battlefield, you say, I am not going to fight. Therefore, Krishna says you have to fight, because right now fighting is your duty. Therefore, when he said fight, what was he teaching? Understand this point. Is that duty. And Krishna, Arjuna said, I can't do my duty. Why? Here comes the problem. Clear? Here comes the problem. The problem is, Arjuna's problem we all have. Everybody is Arjuna. Everybody is Arjuna means everybody is a warrior and everybody is confused. Arjuna implies valor and also implies confusion. You know, it's confused. And in life now, listen, now Gita begins really here. Confusion. We all live a life of confusion, understand? Not only in big situations, even in small situations, we suffer because we are confused between duty and sentiment, understand? Emotion, sentiment. And human being actually is full of sentiments. Human means sentiment. Human means sentiment. To love is a sentiment. To hate is a sentiment. And if somebody makes money and you don't make it, you don't like the other person, it's a sentiment. We are all full of sentiments. Attachment is a sentiment. Affection is also a kind of a sentiment. This is what we call, in technical language, is raga and dvesha. I am just introducing the technical language. All human sentiments can be brought under two things called raga and dvesha. Otherwise you got to love and hate. Raga and dvesha. All sentiments. Arjuna had sentiment for Bhishma, sentiment for Drona, in fact sentiment for all his cousins. Sometimes, even if they are not very good to you, but you still have attachment. The enmity need not be carried so far as to kill them. I don't want. That only speaks that he is a good-hearted also. He was a warrior. He was confused, but he was also a good-hearted person, especially, a man who is warrior and who thinks, just by killing a few handful of people, you can get the whole country. Then you cease to be good-hearted. You just go ahead and kill them. Just by killing a handful of people, if you can grab the whole kingdom, then do you sit there as a good-hearted person? You don't care for goodness. You just go all out. You get them eliminated and grab the whole country. But Arjuna said, I am not interested. Just listen. I am not interested in fighting. I don't want to kill Bhishma and Drona. I don't want to kill Bhishma and Drona. Why? Instead of killing Bhishma and Drona, he said, I don't mind living a life of mendicancy. A mendicant is one, a sannyasi is one, he is also called a mendicant. He just goes to a village and says, please give me some bhiksha. It is not beggar, it is not begging, it is a mendicant. We have a different word for it. You see, when a sannyasi goes to a village, they feel blessed to give him something. Because here is a person who has left everything to study Vedas and to teach Vedas, to teach good things to the society, is there, and therefore, and society has to maintain him, has to look after him. So and therefore, with great love and respect, they give something. With great respect, they give him something. And that is what is called mendicancy. Clear? It's called mendicancy. If a beggar goes and begs, you don't feel blessed or anything, you always give something with a comment. Atta katta ho, kaam kyun nahi karte? Understand? Atta katta ho, kaam kyun nahi karte? That person has become immune to all those. If he becomes sensitive, then he can't beg. There are no sensitive beggars, understand? There are no sensitive beggars. If you become sensitive, then you can't beg. You can't afford to be sensitive. And there is a school where you are pulled out of all your sensitivity and then drop you at every road corner so that you can beg. Not able to follow. Arjuna said, I don't mind becoming a sadhu and asking for bhiksha and then living rather than kill Bhishma and Drona for the sake of the kingdom. Not able to follow. What does it speak of? Does it speak of his weakness or does it speak of his good-heartedness? Understand, Krishna's love for peace is misinterpreted in this country as love for violence. Listen to this. Krishna's effort for peace was interpreted as love for violence. Because he tells Arjuna to fight. But when does he tell him? Not at the beginning. When the war has already broken out, then he tells him, don't sit down and fight. Don't sit down and cry. Fight. Do your duty. Arjuna said, I don't mind really taking arms and surviving. Rather than fight my own kith and kin in order to get some land. What does that speak of? Does it speak of his weakness or does it speak of his sensitivity? He is being a sensitive person, he is a good-hearted person. He says, instead of killing my own brothers, just leave the whole thing and go away. Does it not happen? Suppose if there is a fight between 2-3 brothers, if there is one brother who is very sensitive and who doesn't like, he simply says, all right, keep the whole thing for yourself and I am off. He will go to Rishikesh and take sannyas. I tell you, he is a noble man. He is a noble man. Definitely he is a good-hearted person. But here Arjuna happens to be having a certain duty. And even though he says, I don't mind living like a sadhu, Krishna says, that is wrong. You are a prince. You have a duty to protect dharma. And in the process of protecting dharma, if you have to fight against Duryodhana, you have to do it. If you have to fight all those people who are supporting Duryodhana, you have to fight. What about the sentiment? Bhishma is my great-grandfather. How can I fight him? Drona is my teacher. How can I fight him? Say, in the face of the duty, sentiments should be set aside. This is India. India says nothing should stand in the way of duty. This country is standing only because of that. Understand? In fact, the asset of this country is the sense of duty. Though it is wearing thin now with the passage of time, really did duty. We always look at the work as duty. कहाँ जा रहे हो? Duty पे जा रहे हो. Duty पे जा रहे हो. That sense of duty, sense of responsibility was so much ingrained in us. Therefore, Krishna says, keep your sentiments aside. We all have sentiments, but sentiments have their place. But if there is a conflict between sentiment and duty, then really you have to choose the duty. And we find ourselves sometimes faced with a conflict between duty and sentiment. Serving the parents, I'll take the homely example. Serving the parents is my duty. No way can it be interpreted not your duty. No, I have less resources, I have less material resources. There is no excuse. There is no excuse. You cannot cite even one excuse to prove that it is not your duty. Because the only persons who have the duty to serve the old people are the children and grandchildren. Who else will serve? You can't really send them to Vriddhashrama, understand? From Grihastha straight to Vriddhashrama. Is that not? Therefore, you have a duty towards the old parents. Now tell me, come up with one argument that can prove that it is not your duty. It is the children's duty to look after the parents. Because parents are not there to be looked after by them. Parents who are already into their 70s and 80s can't be looked after by their parents because they are not there. So they have to be looked after by their children. And children have to be children when they grow big have to be looked after by. This tradition is a beautiful tradition. Rather than the negative tradition. When I grow up, my children neglect me. When they grow up, their children neglect them. When they grow up, their children neglect them. Instead of this tradition of neglect, this tradition of looking after is much better. Which sampradaya is better? Which tradition is better? Is it really the tradition of neglect or the tradition of care? Tradition of care speaks of the maturity of a society, please understand. Owning good traditions speaks of the maturity of a society. If a society follows the tradition of neglect, I am neglected by my children and they are neglected by their children and they are neglected by their children. This is called a tradition of neglect. In Sanskrit it is called, you better memorize it, Andha Parampara. What is it called? Andha Parampara. It is a tradition of blindness. It is a tradition of blindness. It is a blind tradition. In this blind tradition, what happens? Everybody feels insecure. In fact, these days, you shudder to become old. Do you know why? Because I don't know whether my children will come from me. I tell you, even when you are young, When you are supposed to be living your life, you have the fear of old age. Why? Because there is no guarantee that you will be looked after. Therefore, everybody tries to avoid old age. They keep one or two cyanide things in the locker. So the day you feel that the life is not worth living, open the locker and then put to yourself to sleep. You can put yourself to sleep. Put yourself to eternal sleep, quietly. What I am saying is not a story, that is a reality in many lives. Understand? That is a reality. Therefore, the whole life is lived under the pressure of fear when we follow these blind traditions. But if we follow that tradition is what? A tradition of care. Tradition of care is what we require. That is a duty. Therefore, looking after the parents becomes what? A duty. Is there any argument that can make it otherwise? I want you to think. Is there any argument that can make it otherwise? No. Parents must be looked after children, whoever they are. Because every child also one day is going to become old. If old age is a problem, life is a problem. If old age is a problem, life is a problem. If old age is a problem, even youth becomes a problem. In fact, the moment you think of old age, right now you are, in fact, it is almost like, living a life with a sword hanging on your head. It's dangerous to lose this beautiful tradition which was built for ages. Just to throw it away is wrong. I have this is the duty. Now what is the sentiment? Now see, sentiment. Me and my wife and my 2 children, just 4 of us living together, and nobody else will cook exactly what we like, and then we don't have to cook extra at all. We don't have to share anything with anybody. Mummy, Papa, let them live their life. Me, mera mem saab, mere bacche, bas ek flat le lenge, a 2-hole flat. 2-bedroom flat means it's not 2-bedroom flat, 2 pigeon holes flat. These local flats like pigeon holes. हम यहाँ पर रहेंगे, आराम से जिएंगे, आराम से जिंदगी कट जाएगा. What about those old parents who educate, in fact, who spend a lot of money to, educate you and make you a competent person? And they took loans to get your marriage celebrated. And those loans they are still paying off. And you are saying, me, mera mem saab, mere bacche, bas aur kuch nahi chahiye. हम सब फ्लैट के अंदर रह जाए और बाहर से चाबी खो जाए. What is this thinking? What is this thinking? I don't understand really. Actually, the same parents, one day they become really elderly in the same thing. Why can't we think like that? When I grow old, and if my children also say the same thing, then I'll be insecure. If I make my parents insecure, then I become insecure when I become old. My children again would become insecure when they become old. This is called Andha Parampara. So there is a conflict between duty, a noble duty, and an emotional sentiment. Understand? In other words, Upanishad calls it very beautifully. One is good, the other is a temporary comfort. One is good. Duty is always good. It creates goodness, meaning it creates long-term happiness. Duty creates happiness in your life. Whereas a sentiment, neglecting the duty and falling for a sentiment, neglecting a duty, but that sentiment may create a temporary comfort. This temporary comfort is called preyas. This long-term good is called shreyas. Come on, repeat. The temporary comfort is called preyas. Preyas is called preyas. The long-term good is called shreyas. Bhagavan Krishna teaches, go for shreyas. Don't go for praise. You will be unhappy. That is why Arjuna is going to say, Yat Shreyas Syat, Shadhimam Tvam. So please teach me what is a Shreyas, please teach me, because my mind is running after prayers, sentiments. Is not Arjuna's duty as much noble as serving the parents? If serving the parents is a noble duty, serving the elderly at home is a noble duty. Please don't think you are wasting your time. Don't think really, because serving these old people at home, in fact I wanted to start a boutique in this theatre, that theatre, in that 5-star hotel. All that I am not able to do because I have got caught up with these old men, old people. I am wasting my time. I am telling you that is the only time you are utilizing. When you are serving your old parents and parents-in-law or grandparents, anybody old at home, if you are looking after them, I tell you, you are living Gita. You are living Shastram. You are living Dharma. Now this is one noble duty. I have given an example. Now Arjuna fighting for Dharma, is it not equally noble? Not that you just, you start a war. If somebody is destroying Dharma, if somebody is killing Dharma, well, to bring him to book, is it a noble duty or not? It's a noble duty. To bring a criminal to book is a noble duty. And Arjuna is told, hey, you do your duty and don't fall for your sentiment. But still Arjuna is depressed. He is still depressed. That is where the second chapter begins. Let us read. Introduction will continue. Let us do some verses. Otherwise, before you lose interest in Gita, I better begin the verses. Because kuch pata nahi. Anything can happen. Please read. Dvitiyodhyayah Sanjaya Uvacha Tam Tatha Kripaya Vishtam Ashrupurna Kulekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. I am going to use two words. Try to pick up these two terms. One is mundane or topical, meaning very mundane. If there is a conflict between duty and sentiment, it is a very topical thing. Meaning, arm problem. What you call arm in Hindi, say arm. That is called. It is a day-to-day problem. Sometimes you have a conflict between duty and sentiment. This is called topical problem. Clear? Topical problem, empirical problem, mundane problem, these are all synonyms. Pick up this language. Now, supposing a man is afraid of death, fear. The fear of death. If I lose this form, I would be gone. If I take somebody's life, that person is gone forever. Fear of death is not a mundane problem. Fear of death is not a mundane problem. Fear of death is a spiritual problem. Fear. I fear death because I conclude that when I lose the form, I come to an end. This conclusion that my existence comes to an end with the loss of the body, my existence comes to an end. This conclusion, this thinking is called a spiritual problem. It is a spiritual distortion. It's spiritual ignorance. It is like saying, when pot breaks, well, the clay comes to an end. When pot breaks, only pot comes to an end. Clay doesn't come to an end. When an ornament breaks, only ornament comes to an end, not gold. Gold doesn't come to an end. Just as there is gold in the ornament, we are there in this body. We are like the gold in the body. Body is an ornament. Body is an abhushanam, an ornament. And the one who dwells in the body is the gold. Thoughts are ornaments, and the one who is there, that conscious being in every thought, is gold. When the body falls, when the body breaks, not the gold, not the truth. And not to know this fact is called spiritual ignorance. Not to see the difference between the ornament and the gold is called spiritual ignorance. Arjuna had these two problems. One is the conflict between duty and sentiment. The other is spiritual ignorance. Two problems. Because Arjuna had two problems, and Arjuna, Krishna addressed both of them, and therefore the whole Bhagavad Gita is two things. He answered both, he solved both the problems. He said, do your duty and control the sentiment. Do your duty and control the sentiment is going to be the message in some verses. And also the spiritual ignorance, that fear of death, fear of insecurity, fear of loneliness, fear of annihilation, that fear that man carries in his heart throughout life. In fact, it disappears only when he dies. The fear of death is gone only when he dies. Not that it doesn't go, it goes forever. Then again he is reborn, and again he is reborn with that fear of death. He is reborn with the fear. The whole life he lives with that fear. And therefore, without the fear, there is no existence. Therefore, there is always fear, and that needs to be handled. Krishna teaches the reality about this human being so that he can live without fear. He can live without fear and live without conflict. What more do you want in life? What more do you want in life? To be able to live without fear and to be able to live without conflict. What else is Shanti? What else is Shanti? What else is Shanti? Can your millions bring about these two? Can your millions remove the conflict in life? Conflict between duty and sentiment? Can the millions take away the conflict between the duty and sentiment? No. Can the millions also take away the fear? Fear of death? No. And unless the fear is gone, and unless the conflict is gone, can you live your life peacefully? No. In fact, a rich man also lives a life of fear and conflict. A poor man also lives a life of fear and conflicts. In fact, the entire history of humanity is a history of conflict and fear. All the time, fear. We live under fear. And therefore, Arjuna had both fear and conflict. And therefore, he sat down with tears rolling down. He literally started crying, understand? It is not some kind of, nervousness or anything. It is not a nervousness. It is a different problem. Nervousness, do you know what it means? Nervousness means fear. Darpok. Was Arjuna darpok? Arjuna was a darpok. Hey Rama. He is not darpok. He was brave, but he had a different problem. Human beings are also not darpok. We are not darpok, we have a different problem. We have conflicts and spiritual ignorance. We need to resort to duties, and also we need to resort to spiritual knowledge. And because Arjuna was having this problem, Sanjaya says, tells Dhritarashtra, just another couple of minutes. Sanjaya is reporting to Dhritarashtra about what is happening in the battlefield. Sanjaya says, Tam, first word you take, Tam, and to Arjuna. Tatha, in that manner, Kripaya, with sorrow, with sentiments. Avishtam, overwhelmed. Arjuna was overwhelmed with his sentiments for Bhishma, sentiments for Drona. He was full of sentiments, not with a sense of duty. He was not really fired with the duty. He was overwhelmed with emotions and sentiments. And therefore, tam tatha kripaya avishtam. Ashru purna akula ikshanam. Ashru means tears. Purna means full. The eyes were full of tears. Akula means the eyes. Ikshanam, the sight. He was looking full of tears in his eyes. Meaning he was crying. Bas. Arjuna was overwhelmed with the sentiments and he was crying. Vishidantam, and he was grieving, he was sorrowing, he was unhappy inside, he was crying. Vishidantam. And to that kind of Arjuna, idam vakyam, the following words, Uvacha said, Madhusudanaha Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna said the following words to Arjuna, who was seized of his sentiments. He was seized with sorrow, and he was totally ignorant about what to do, what not to do. He was ignorant about his duty, and he was also ignorant about what this truth about life is. It's like when you go to a cremation ground, you become spiritual in thinking. Understand, That's why when you are taking somebody out to the cremation, what do you recite? Ram Naam Satya Hai, Ram Naam Satya Hai. When you come back, do you say that? You don't say Ram Naam Satya Hai. Why? Because it's over. So in the cremation one becomes spiritual. Similarly in a battlefield also one becomes spiritual because they're faced with death. You become very depressed. And to that Arjuna Krishna said, we will continue it later on. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. There is some prasadam. Those who haven't taken prasadam can come and